For those that don't know me, I'm Alex.
And I'm Veronica.
And we are the Youngs.
And if you got that joke, you're our best friends.
We're talking about speeches today.
I may be a little bit biased because I work with my husband and he is lead video for our team and half of our business is video. But I think as a photographer, regardless of if that's the fact or not, I know and understand that speeches are imperative for any wedding film and can make or break it. So I know that I kind of want to just let Alex do his thing to make sure that he's getting good audio, good visuals for all of the speeches, all of the reaction shots, and then I just work around. And I feel like if you are prepared as a photographer and you have multiple lenses of focal length, then you can pretty much work around anything that the videographer has set up. And we'll kind of dive into that today.
Every single reception is going to be different. And if you watched our setup for ceremony video, we mentioned that about ceremonies, but I would say that there's more diverse
speech
setups and reception setups than there are ceremony setups. So this is just one way that we like to do it, and it doesn't always work this way. But in general, what you should take out of this is camera placements and lighting placements.
And as far as the photography aspect goes, this is also going to be interpreted how you want based off of what your style is. So for me, I do sometimes use off-camera flash, but honestly, with the lighting setup that Alex puts up, I don't typically need it. But if you like to have a lot of off-camera setup, just make sure you're communicating that with the videographer to figure out where the best placement is going to be. And for me, I don't need it with his lighting setup, so this is just how we work through it.
So in general, when we are working, we have the head table usually here, large dance floor here, and then tables usually spread around with, I'm gonna get rid of this one, with a DJ or band stage or something back here. This is important because this is usually where your electric might come from. So if you have lights that you'd like to plug into an outlet, you usually always have an option here. So the first thing that I like to do is get a sense of what the room looks like and where my outlets are. I use the Aperture 60Xs, which are able to be powered on batteries, but I always prefer to plug it into an outlet so that I don't have to worry about batteries dying in the middle of someone giving a speech. So that's what I do first. And assuming that I'm able to plug in two outlets, that's what I do. So the first thing that I do is I talk to the DJ, I talk to the planner, I talk to the couple, and I talk to everybody giving a speech to let them know, so just to make sure everybody's on the same page, and to let them know that we're gonna be putting the speech giver in the center of the dance floor on a mic stand so that they don't mess with the microphone. Audio is a different topic. I dive into what we use for audio in another video, so you can go check that out too, and we'll link that below. The couple's usually on this side of the table. You might be asking, especially if you're a photographer, why don't I like to have the speech givers just stand behind the table? But what this does is allows us to have complete control over the lighting, complete control over the microphone. For example, I mentioned having a mic stand. That's so that they don't have the ability to drop the mic up and down, so then that messes with volume levels and how it sounds. And that also keeps them from wandering.
It also frees up their hands. If they're holding paper, they're holding their phone, whatever the case might be that they're reading off of, they're able to hold their champagne for the toast and then also hold whatever they're looking at to read off of.
Things they can't do when they're standing here. Another thing is that if the person is standing here, the couple's going to look back at them like that. And then we won't really have a shot of their face. If we have them set up where they're facing each other, then we can have a good shot of their face for both camera angles.
And something I do want to mention is, I know that there's a lot of elements going on here, but something that Alex will also do is if we know prior that there's going to be really tall florals on the head table, then we know that we'll probably have to move the couple to make sure that we can actually get a reaction shot from them. So we will sometimes move them onto the dance floor and put chairs here and here so they can sit and watch the speaker.
Right, and it can be either here or off to the corner sometimes, but either way, it's always good to communicate this idea of speeches well before the day of, so that they know that it's possible that you might ask them to move during speeches, and then also make sure it's okay.
Yep.
And they're okay with that. So let's start with lighting. So I like to use 2 main lights. I want to light the couple and I want to light the speech giver. So for the couple, I'll usually set it up on this general area near the DJ or the band and plug into one of the outlets over here, and then do a pretty tight spot aimed at the couple. And for the speech giver light, I'll put the light generally about this area, and that kind of varies based on outlets or tall table settings or anything like that, and that will be aimed this way. When you're lighting someone with lighting that you brought, you want to make sure that there's contrast between them and the rest of the environment so that they kind of pop off of it. So it's always good to talk to a coordinator or the planner or somebody that is in charge of the venue and ask them if they can dip the lights down during these speeches so that the speech giver pops and they are front and center in all of your images. And you don't have to worry about the lighting because you're providing the light that you need. So for our camera placement, for video specifically, I always like to follow the 180 rule. And that looks like this. If you take your subject matter, which in this case would be the speech giver and the couple, and you draw a line down the center, that is your 180-degree line. And that means that wherever I place my cameras, I don't want to cross that line with another camera and basically make it look like shooting this way and then shooting this way, because that just doesn't give you an organic, natural feel. In reference to where we put the lights, we always like to put the cameras on the dark side. And that means basically the opposite side of where the lights are shining, so that you get the shadow side as your main spot, and then you see the light filling in from the other side. That always looks the most cinematic and the most dramatic and makes the biggest impact as far as how your speech is gonna look. So for our reaction angle, we generally like to put it back on the corner of the dance floor, behind where the speaker's at, and angle it toward the couple. Usually I put maybe a 7200 on this, maybe a 100 mil macro. Just depends on what Veronica's using and how far away we actually are from the couple. And this will shine basically past the speaker and right to the couple, so it looks almost like they're looking interview style toward the camera. And then for the speaker, I'll do the same thing, but on the opposite corner. And I'll put there, and then I'll shoot toward, and then I'll film toward the speaker. What to think about with this angle specifically is what is behind in this area that's gonna be on the camera. So if you're tight enough, you should be able to get things like light stands, DJ setups, or any other big things out of the shot so that it looks more professional. Because the worst thing you want, which sometimes it's unavoidable, is a big stage setup with speaker stands or workers mingling in the back corner or trays set up. It just looks undone and not intentional. These 2 cameras are always on tripods. So once they're set up, just make sure they're recording and they stay in focus, and shouldn't have to change anything other than that. So that's where I will float and get alternate shots of the speaker, alternate shots of the couple, and then generally there's a family table here or here or here or here. And then being right here, I'll turn and get shots of the family reacting to the speeches. And then my second videographer will also do the same thing from this angle, so he can monitor this and also get this half of the room.
For the photography side of things, I will typically roam within this free space. And I always make sure to communicate with Alex what focal length lens is on this camera and which one is on this camera, because that will tell me how far up I can get. And I typically like to have 2 camera bodies on me, one with a really tight lens, maybe like an 85, and then one with a 50. And since the couple is further away from me, I will use an 85mm to photograph their reaction here, and then the 50 to photograph here. And this will give me a nice side profile of the speaker, but then I can also get really nice and tight on this side, or even walk around the camera and stand right here to get a front angle of the speech giver. And then as far as my second photographer, I will probably have them just roam about the reception to get reaction shots from the table, to get different angles, maybe standing over here to get a shot there. And yeah, it just depends on the reception setup, but I always like to communicate with Alex and give him free range of what he needs as far as the speeches, and then I just work based off that.
It's pretty much all we have for our general layout. Now, as we said at the beginning, every reception is going to be different, so occasionally there won't be an option for this sort of setup. And if that's the case, we'll adjust from there. But the 180 rule, the 2 angles, and the lighting setup is almost always the same. So if you have any questions or comments about speeches and receptions, feel free to put them in the comments. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you don't, and we will see you next time.
Peace.